Talking Charts with Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist at Verified Investing. Gareth, let's talk some Palo Alto getting ready for earnings this afternoon. Kind of seems like an opportunity for this to jazz us up on a week without a lot of tech earnings, maybe the most important one?
Yeah, certainly one of the most important, especially following the CrowdStrike fiasco. So it's going to be curious to see if they say that they're getting any business from the CrowdStrike situation, since they're both in that cybersecurity area. But I will say this, the chart is trading up into this 350 level. That is technical resistance in the short term going into earnings. So I am on a little bit of a cautious note here, unless the price can get over that 350 level on earnings. Downside supports around that 310 area. So again, we will have support if it dumps out to buy around that 310 level.
Pretty nice, consistent trend here on this thing, right? So, I mean, I guess it'd have to take something really bad to break it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and hopefully that doesn't happen considering what went on with CrowdStrike. But I think the key here is that as long as that trend holds, that trend line, that lower base of support line that's sloping up, you want to buy that level. If it breaks, you got to use a tight stop as a trader, because ultimately if that trend breaks, there's a lot of significant support. But I'll be looking to buy that 310-ish area for sure on earnings here.
Okay, nice. So you put your stop pretty close to that dash line you got there?
I think just below 300. You know, if it gets below 300, you call it a day. You step aside for a small loss. Otherwise, you buy that for a move back to 350 if it dips to 310.
Nice. Okay. And then I guess the trade at this point, you're not really looking for new highs, right? You're just kind of looking for it to break out of this 340 level?
Yeah, so that secondary resistance level is a gap fill, and that gap fill will be very significant resistance. It's also close to double top. So you have multiple factors of resistance up around 370-ish, give or take. And so again, I'd be looking to sell into that. If I'm long, I would look to sell into 370 if it pushes up into that level.
Got it. All right. Nice. Okay, so Palo Alto, Snowflake 2 on the list of cloud companies that have earnings coming up. You know, like the opposite chart to some degree, but I mean, I guess not terrible. It's had a nice little bounce, but it just put in fresh new lows. So how do you read this?
Yeah. So, and what's beautiful about this is what happened was it swept the previous low from 2022. And what that means, it flushed right through it, which stops out a lot of weak hands. It ultimately recovered and closed back above. That flush actually occurred 2 Mondays ago when the stock market took that major hit. So the fact that it got back above, it created what's called a double bottom. That's a very good technical sign. It tells us that there's a line in the sand here where we can trade against. So any kind of a 115-ish area, that's going to be major support. And I'd actually favor the upside on this. I like the price action. I like the chart, low end of the chart coming into an earnings where the expectations are not a mile high, like a lot of the AI stocks have mile high expectations. And so in terms of resistance, there's significant upside available before we start heading into some of these resistance levels.
So it kind of looks like it's a little bit about to break free to some extent from this downtrend. If it does, you want to be riding that energy as it breaks out, but it still is kind of an if.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, it hasn't broken above that first resistance yet, but it does have a little room to run into it. So in general, if I had to pick a side, I'd be on the long side here going into earnings, and then with that stop of below that double bottom if it were to crater back down there. But aside from that, I think you have, you know, multiple steps up until you get that downsloping trend line, which is resistance number 3, and that would be kind of your major level. Everything prior, resistance 1 and resistance 2, are just minor levels. They should be just stopping points along the way to that upper major third resistance.
Okay. All right. So a little more bullishness on here versus Palo Alto. I kind of like it. So, all right. Looking for a little role reversal in these two as kind of leaders in cloud to some extent. Okay. Like the channels in those, maybe trying to break out for Snowflake. Well, you buying into this housing, home builders, rate-driven kind of comeback here, Gareth? We got Toll Brothers this week, the latest on that.
Yeah, so the Toll Brothers chart's actually pretty bearish as I'm glancing over to it. You have this what's called an inside bar parallel bearish channel forming. And generally when you see these after a sharp drop and you get these bear flags to form, it signals further downside. I also think that meshes with some of the macro narratives that even though we're on this kick now of back to no landing or soft landing, if there's no landing or soft landing, interest rates are not coming down that much where it's not going to make a huge difference to the investor or the buyer, the home buyer. On the other side, if interest interest rates come cratering down very quickly, it tells us the economy is very, very weak, which means people losing their jobs probably can't afford to buy homes that much. Inventory levels we know have spiked. So overall, I would be bearish on this going into earnings. I think they underperform.
Wow. Okay. All right. So kind of fading some of the optimism around that group there. All right. Toll Brothers today making a move into it, though, almost up 3.5%. You always bring me a little present on the crypto stuff. Give me a Bitcoin take real quick, Gareth. It's still kind of muddling along here while stocks are just like in full comeback mode.
Yeah, and that's been disappointing. There's no doubt about it that, as a crypto investor, you'd expect a better performance from a risk-on asset like Bitcoin in this type of market environment. We haven't seen it. However, we've seen flashes where when the market kind of gets a little weaker, money flows over into crypto. So we're in this weird period now. The one thing I could point to on the chart is that Bitcoin continues to be in this sideways consolidation channel, which is mid to long-term bullish. So even if it dips back down to the 53,000 level, as long as it holds 53,000 on a daily closing basis, I would remain very bullish over the mid to longer term, which is 3 to 6 months out. And then look for further upside and eventual new all-time highs. So again, shorter term, it's a little murkier, but longer term, very, very bullish on the Bitcoin chart right now.
Okay. When does that click in? If it's in this downtrending kind of channel, it's sort of sideways, but we've got the lower highs. So when you draw it as you've got it downtrending, does that mean we need to get out of it to confirm that push to the new high, or is there anything else closer that seems like it opens the door to upside?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. What you do is you connect all the recent highs from that 74,000 high. There's a perfect trend line there. And if you connect those highs and price can get a daily close above it, especially a weekly close. Weekly closes are always more powerful, but that would be the breakout catalyst. I have that on my chart right around 69.5 to 70,000. So again, a close above that level should set it free to hit all-time highs and actually continue higher.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks, Garrett. Appreciate the charts. Nice work.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bang, bang, bang. All right, like the charts, like the trades, getting ready for some of the earnings. A couple kind of contrarian takes there on some of the cloud stuff.